My girlfriend and I recently moved into our new house. It's honestly the home we've been dreaming of, the perfect fit. For us, we have a cat named Bella whom we rescued together, so everything felt perfect when we first moved in. The only downside at first was the house to our right. It looked abandoned as the owner had started renovating it but never finished. The layout of the house is such that on our right there's a space for the entrance to our back garden, and next to that is the abandoned house's entrance to its back garden. There's no fence separating the two as the owner removed it to install a new one, but never completed the job, leaving both back gardens with open access. Behind the abandoned house is another property, separated by a fence. From what we could see, several young men live there. Occasionally, when we returned home, we'd see them cutting through the neighbor's back garden to reach the front of the street. We didn't think much of it at first. Maybe they knew the owner and had permission. Fast forward to our first night in the new house, we were sitting in the back garden enjoying the space and looked up at the houses behind us just out of curiosity. That's when we noticed a man staring blankly at us from a window. He wasn't hiding it. He made it very obvious. There was no expression on his face, and the room was dark, which made the whole thing even more unsettling. We assumed he was just curious about his new neighbors. But after half an hour of that blank stare, we decided to go inside. The next few days were normal. I went to work and my fiancée continued unpacking. One night we decided to sit in the garden again. It was dark, but we enjoyed looking at the stars and having deep conversations until we heard the makeshift wooden board fence being moved. 3 men appeared standing there, staring at us. "Are you okay?" I asked, knowing they wouldn't leave unless I said something. The youngest looking, one around 29, was holding a big bag, and we had no idea what was inside. He offered us some stolen washing up tablets, which we declined. I made a joke about it because the situation felt so awkward. He smiled and said, "Okay," and then they left. What struck me was how they just let themselves into our garden without saying anything, like as if they had every right to be there. We went back inside thinking it was a one-off, but it all started getting worse from there. They began helping themselves into our garden more often and acting in ways that were clearly meant to intimidate us. They would get into the next door house by lifting up the fence that separated the back gardens and walking through. I forgot to mention my girlfriend and I are both 20 years old, so of course the idea that they might be trying to intimidate us as two young women was the first thing that crossed our minds. One day while I was cleaning the front room, 2 police officers came around the side of our house and entered the abandoned garden. They lifted up the fence and looked around for a few minutes before leaving, without saying anything. I thought it was strange, but continued with my day, assuming maybe the people next door were trouble. A few days later, the police knocked on our door. They explained that the house behind us was now vacant. The men had been kicked out for antisocial behavior, apparently not just towards us, but with other neighbors too. Honestly, we were relieved. Even though they hadn't physically done anything yet, it meant they wouldn't get the chance to escalate things. We continued settling into the house, but one day while I was in the bath, I heard a loud bang outside. I quickly got dressed and ran to find my girlfriend. I found her recording something from our spare bedroom window, which faces the garden of the now empty house. I asked what was going on, but she shushed me. After a moment, she explained. A man we had never seen before pointed up at our bedroom window, and when she noticed him, he sprinted full speed toward our house. He tried our door handle on the way past, then ran back into the garden, threw the broken fence up, and started banging on all the windows of the empty house. We called the police immediately. They came, watched the video, took a statement, and left. We were shaken. Why? Would they try our door handle and then break into that house? What was he planning? A few nights later, while we were in bed, we heard whistling. The kind of whistle men used to harass women. It was 2:16 a.m. We listened quietly and then heard someone tapping on our window. Terrified, we checked the cameras, but for some reason they didn't record anything. Whoever it was must have left shortly after because the noises stopped. We were too scared to sleep. So the next day we went to my mom's and stayed the night. When we returned the following morning, we noticed our Ring doorbell had been removed and placed on the floor. The SD card was gone. Someone had clearly come back and we knew who it was. Who else would do that? We called the police again and they told us to keep all the doors and windows locked. The woman on the phone even said that the removal of the camera could be a sign that they were planning something, which terrified us even more. But at least she was honest. The whistling, banging, and attempts to re-enter the house continued. For weeks, we made multiple police reports. They never tried our door again, so we hoped it was over. But 3 weeks later, while in bed watching funny clips from our camera, we checked the live feed. That's when we saw a man outside wearing a black mask covering his mouth and nose with his hood up, standing in front of our garden with his arms spread wide like he was imitating Jesus on the cross. He stared up at our bedroom window with his head tilted. We froze. At the time, we had moved the camera inside the house, so it didn't record. We were so shaken, we didn't even think to screen record. He then spoke, but we couldn't hear what he said. Then he turned around, walked to the opposite side of the street and just stood there staring at our house for about 30 minutes. We called the police again. They said it wasn't illegal to stare at someone's property and dismissed the whole thing. Even when we told them what he did on our lawn, they made us feel like we were overreacting. We couldn't sleep for days. Any noise outside terrified us, even normal ones. Then one night at 2:52 a.m., we got a notification. I woke my girlfriend and said, "Someone's outside. I know it. Please check the camera." She did, and there they were. 2 masked men coming from the side of our house, shining flashlights into our windows. One of them, the same man who had been harassing us, was holding what looked like a crowbar. Why us? What was the point of this? For days on end, he would stand across the street, pointing, waving, or shouting things up at our window. Every time we looked, he would stare blankly at us. It was clearly meant to scare us, and it worked. We kept contacting the police, but they've done very little. The harassment continues. We've got cameras now and we record everything, but we feel powerless. Just earlier today, he stood outside, again staring up at us. We got it on video and we're absolutely terrified, but we'll update if anything else happens.